Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus 7-Day Challenge, and today we have Spider-Man 3, the final of the Tobey and Kirsten trilogy of Spider-Man films, Sam Raimi directed films. So yeah, it was it was not as well received as the other Spider-Man films were. I think. I mean, there was always talk of a fourth one, but after the poor showing of this one, despite everything the studio did to make sure this was a hit, because, Sam never really wanted, from what I understand, I could be wrong, correct me, Sam, if I'm wrong, he never really wanted Venom in the story. But the studio was like, Venom, 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 Venom. Sony wants Venom because he's so popular. He's so popular in the comics. You got to have Venom. Well, so Sam did it, but in his own way. This is 2 hours and 20 minutes long, a good 30 minutes longer than it should have been. It's from 2007, and it's chock full of villains. It's trying to wrap up a trilogy in a sense where, okay, sure, if they would have put a fourth one in there, it might have been the start of a new trilogy. I don't know how long Sam would have wanted to go and keep doing Spider-Man films. I doubt he would wanted to do two trilogies, but I don't know. I don't know what Sam wanted. The good thing about this is very much still in the very Sam Raimi way of doing things. Is directing style is evident in every frame. Although I like, the Evil Dead kind of stuff, the Army of Darkness kind of stuff it's more practical than digital. This looks like, it was shot on film, but then shoved full of CGI effects, which, yeah, you kind of have to do a lot of when you're doing Spider-Man. And some of the more compelling scenes, believe it or not, the action sequences, the really tight, the tight space kind of fighting sequences between Peter and Harry as the new Green Goblin, and between Peter, Spider-Man, and Sandman. Those are actually pretty well choreographed. They move really nicely, but again, it's so clearly evident there's not a human being on that screen at any point. I mean, Sam's making use of the tools that he has available to him, and it's kind of it's to do those kind of sequences is a whole lot more difficult than without the digital effects. And even though, say, a lot of the effects these days for the newer Spider-Man films or even other Marvel films have they use some more practical stuff. They just hide the digital a little bit better. Maybe 15 years from now, 4 to 15 years from now, the Tom Holland Spider-Man stuff might not look good either. I don't know. It's you work with what you got. So that's my thoughts on the effects. So it's not great, but again, it is what it is. What we have here in the cast, we have, like I said, it's chock full of villains. We have the Sandman, played by Thomas Hayden Church. We have James Franco back as Harry Osborn, and now taking on the legacy of the Green Goblin after his father's death. Did we completely... I can't remember if Spider-Man 2 was just all about Ock, or if we just ignored the Harry thing for Spider-Man 2. Like, he found out who Spider-Man was, and he found his dad's cache of weapons and goblin stuff at the end of Spider-Man 1, correct? I can't remember. That's the only one we haven't watched as part of the series yet, but I kind of remember that discovery made at the end of 2. It doesn't matter. Either way, he knows who Spider-Man is, and he's gunning for him. So we have Sandman, we have Green Goblin, we have Venom, played by Topher Grace, and a lot of people have a problem with him as Venom. They're like, why? He's just like a scrawny dude. He's not big and hulking and intimidating. Like the big mouth on Venom, and for some reason he got spiky human teeth at some point because he got the symbiote. I don't know. Maybe Peter would have gotten that if he would have worn it differently. I don't know. It's it might be the nature of the human that he connects with that the symbiote gets a little bit more transformative. I have no idea. There's a whole lot of flimsy excuses, literally single line exposition that can turn an entire story in this movie at least 2 or 3 times. Spider-Man Venom hunts down Sandman and goes, hey, Spider-Man won't let you see your daughter. We should team up. And Sandman's just like, okay, like that's a good idea. Like literally one line of dialogue. These guys don't know each other, and just they happen to run into each other in an alley, and he goes, hey, let's team up because he will let you see your daughter, and I want to get him too. Okay. There's my brain is blanking, but yeah, there's a few other things. The entire story turns on a single just line of dialogue. It's fairly, motive is kind of weak in some cases, but in addition to the villains we already know, between Eddie Brock / Venom, we also have Peter and MJ. Peter is his own worst villain when he puts on the black suit or the symbiote, and of course spends a good portion of the film just being dark and dorky. That whole dance sequence. I mean, everybody kind of remembers the whole kind of the dance thing in the street, but a lot of people, I forgot all about the jazz club scene. The jazz club scene is absurd, and I would have thought, you know what? That guy's Spider-Man. If I'd seen anybody do that, or he's in Cirque du Soleil, I have no. That whole jazz sequence, pretty bad, but not bad. In context, okay, but Peter's just his own worst enemy, and MJ and Peter are their own worst enemies. This is something I discovered when my friends and I were watching the Spider-Man movies leading up to the premiere of Tom Holland in his own film. We just did a marathon of movies over several weeks. And this is before some of us had children, and you can do that kind of thing until 2 o'clock in the morning. But in this situation, back then when we watched it, we just realized how bad MJ and Peter are for each other. They're just so petty. They're so at each other's throats at the drop of a hat. That's the littlest thing. MJ's petulant because he puts the focus on him rather than on her. He's just dumb to everything that she needs at the same time, where that petulance I just mentioned, she's correct in this. And of course, when he becomes a jerk due to the suit, you can blame it on the suit all you want, honestly, but in reality, Peter's just awful in many cases to MJ. There's no character, you don't want to see them together. I don't know why anybody would. I mean, some people do. And of course, Gwen Stacy shows up in Bryce Dallas Howard, but she's meant to be a token distraction. We got to add this character in here. And James Cromwell is Captain Stacy. So he makes an appearance. Neither of them die in this one, although Gwen does come close. We'll leave that for Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2. But yeah, I mean, seriously, the worst villains that Spider-Man has to battle in this is himself and MJ. And I realize there's just so many sequences that sort of just drag down the intensity of the film, and just the characterization. The characters, I realize some of these scenes are meant to be more quiet and intimate in order for you to feel like a sense of depth of character for some of these people. But if you're on the third film and you're still not really sure of the motivation of the character, you don't understand what's driving Pete or MJ, something's wrong. Something's really wrong. In my opinion, Ursula, the girl across the hall from Pete, he should have just went with her. She was sweet as a button. Cute as a button? Yeah, cute as a button. And sweet as anything. She clearly had a crush on Pete and missed opportunity. They could have gone a whole different direction and not... They were never going to go that different direction. It has to be MJ or Gwen. But, yeah. Yeah, and by the way, even in the comics right now, they keep putting Pete with different women every so often. Every few years, he starts dating a different woman. And it always comes back to MJ. Some tension comes back. Gwen is obviously still dead in the Marvel 616 comic universe. Not the 616 movie universe. Whatever. But, there's Spider-Gwen. There's all the different Gwens, the multiverse of Gwens. She's a bit too young for adult Pete at this point. So that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It's between just truly goofy scenes. I want to like this film. There are just moments where, MJ at the end is being strung up in the dark web of Venom, his black webbing everywhere, parts of the symbiote. And he is also suspended a number of cars in the webs as well, which apparently they keep slipping, and she's got to keep dodging cars every so often. That causes her to lose her grip, and then she's just dangling barely. It sure adds to the tension, but how many cars did he put up there? Like, why did you need to put like a half dozen trucks and taxis and stuff in these webs? What was the purpose of that? And every time I think that he's like, oh, we're out of cars, there's another one plummeting toward her. And I don't know if this is Kirsten's scream, but man, she is quite the screamer. She's got that perfect pitch. She's just, I don't want to do it. It's just, but yeah, the intent of this is to sort of wrap up the trilogy. Certain characters die, yes. At least two of them. Going all the way back to Topher Grace as Venom. When people imagine Venom, they picture somebody a little bit more like Tom Hardy. Even though Tom Hardy's not a tall guy, he's got a bigger physique. And when he turns into Venom in the 3 Venom films, he's imposing. He is big, and he's got a bit more character. He's not just, hey, let me reveal my face every so often and just mock you, Peter, and then just cover up and big mouth, and still keeping the same human physique. I understand why they went with Topher Grace, though, because he's meant to be the physical equivalent of Tobey Maguire. Look at them side by side. They're practically the same person. And he's meant to be a dark reflection of Peter on the outside, exterior. So for a portion of the film, we get Peter struggling with himself, his own dark side within him. That doesn't make for a good fight sequence. Of course, he gets separated by the ringing of the bells in the church, just like it was in the comics. That was Web of Spider-Man 1. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, that Charles Vest cover, it's so good. So that's when we first get Eddie Brock receiving the symbiote suit dropping down on him from Pete, just getting the bells ringing because Venom, the symbiote, is weakened by loud sounds. Sonic attack. And then Eddie acquires the symbiote and becomes Venom. However, The whole time, Eddie he's obviously a jerk. Yes, he's a competitor for Pete, even in the comics. But in this one, he's dating Gwen, or he thinks he's dating Gwen. He's kind of full of himself. They might have went on one date, but he thinks they're dating. Yeah, he's a jerk, but then he suddenly finds religion at the exact same time. Pete is fed up with the symbiote suit, and he starts praying to God, and he gets that blessing from above in the form of the symbiote, and then uses it to wreak havoc in Peter's life. And we get there's just so much juggling going on, especially when we get our first villain confrontation with Harry Green Goblin. Like I said, it was a pretty good. It moved really nicely in a time pre-3D. It looks like the kind of thing you would want to watch in 3D, but this was before Avatar made 3D a hot new thing again. 2007 here. Avatar came out in 2009. Eventually, they fight so roughly that Pete takes a pumpkin bomb that Harry threw at him, swings it back toward him, knocks him off his glider, and he plummets like 4 or 5 stories onto his head, bouncing off of piping and a dumpster. Like, you realize he probably had the goblin serum in him, but he should have been dead. I'm sorry. He gets up with a few bruises, but amnesia, which takes him out of the story for a while. So we can build up the story for Sandman and build up the tension between Peter and MJ, and then eventually bring in Eddie and Venom. There's just so much going on. And if this had been like a 8-episode series on Netflix or, Disney Plus, I think I would have handled it a whole lot better. I think pacing would have been a whole lot better. I think we would have cared a little bit more about what was going on in MJ's life, more than Peter did anyway. Because, when we start out this film, it's a very different place for Peter. Spider-Man is beloved by everyone. He is getting the key to the city after saving the police chief's daughter from imminent death, falling 60 floors, without snapping her neck. So we get a lot. It's just, he crams so much into this movie. Nowadays, a 2-hour and 20-minute movie is not unusual for, the superhero genre. It's just, I don't know, it just didn't flow for me. It didn't flow for me like it should have. I think, again, taken in pieces, this works as definitely an action film. It works as a comedy. It works as a drama. We get a really long, slow conversation with Aunt May about her and Uncle Ben going to the beach and looking real hot. Which I wonder if that's a reference to the comic series that was made in the 90s or the early 2000s about Aunt May and Uncle Ben when they were younger, and how I think I don't know, the brothers dated different girls, and maybe Aunt May is actually Pete's mom. It's all really, Bill Jamis is really messing with the comics back then. And if you don't know who Bill Jamis is, good. It's all right. I know I'm going too deep dive into the comic stuff, but this is my video podcast. So, do you want to watch this film? Yes, if you're a completionist when it comes to the trilogy of Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi, Kirsten Dunst films. Were they the best Pete and MJ couple? Not at all. Not Pete and anybody couple. They're just the worst. They're adults, but they act like they're... I like Kirsten. I like Toby. Not as Pete and MJ. just she always looks like she's put upon. She's just, oh, Pete. And he looks like, well, what's going on, MJ? I have no idea what's going on. Until he gets dark and he gets as a jerk toward her. And then you don't like him then either. You don't root for Spider-Man. And I realize that's part of the arc because he has to go dark in order to come back to the light. But still, yeah. Oh, the other weak thing that they threw in there is by the way, the guy you thought killed your Uncle Ben didn't kill Uncle Ben. It's actually the guy who is Flint Marko. It's actually Sandman. Okay. And that pushes Pete to get vengeance on a new guy now. And you know what? He has a dark suit, which makes, he can really just makes him more intense and he's ready to, take him out. And it's kind of great how they depicted Toby in the Spider-Man No Way Home film where all the Spider-Mans come together, because he's more zen, he's a little bit more chill, and I think that choice grew directly out of all the stuff that happened in Spider-Man 3. It had to be a conscious choice to go where Amazing Spider-Man Garfield is a little intense, and Tom is just, he's still learning the ropes, and he's still good-natured, but he's pushed too far as well after Aunt May. But in the end, it turns out to be Toby who is, you know what? I'm the mature one. I'm going to play this chill, and let's do the right thing for everybody. Rather than I'm all over the place, which is what this movie is. All over the place. So is it my favorite? No, it's not my favorite Spider-Man film by far. It has its moments. It definitely does. But as a whole, again, it's a half hour too long and probably could have dropped maybe one villain. It could have... Raimi should have been allowed to just not have Venom. It's just... Yeah. I think it dragged the whole thing down because he's really literally a third act villain. Like, sure, we know it's Eddie Brock earlier in the film, and he's competing with Pete on this human level, not superhero villain kind of thing. But, and he's going to eventually turn into Venom because it was in all the ads, and he's, the black suit kind of thing. So Venom's coming, but and I just wish even though Pete's having the best time of his life, everything's working out for him. He's ready to propose to MJ. MJ's career is in the dumpster, and she's miserable, and nobody's paying attention to her the way she wants to be paid attention to. And yeah. It's their attempt to make her a more rounded, fuller character rather than somebody that gets kidnapped, thrown into a web, and screams for half an hour. She should be have more depth, but this wasn't the way to go with it. So, am I saying bad things about a Marvel film? Yeah. It's not everyone's a knock. Don't knock everyone out of the park every time, but. Well, that's all I'm going to say about that, because it's just, I've already said a lot, and a lot of people have said a lot over the years. I think if you got me in a conversation talking about this film where I'm not so exhausted, I think part of the reason is the film made me exhausted, which might be my state of mind anytime I want to talk about this film after watching it. I think I could probably have a bit more nuance in my review, but this is the movie to skip if you are not a completionist. But if you're a completionist, just find the good in it. And I do, and I have. It's just I just really wanted it to be better. I really did. Let's pick tomorrow's episode. 120. We are in the... All right, we got another documentary. Now the 120s are the Marvel Studios assembled. The last quarter was like the 130s or something. Now they're the 120s. So if I get something in the 120s again in this quarter, I should know that it's going to be a Marvel Studios assembled documentary. This time it is the making of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So that's what we're watching next. Marvel Studios assembled the making of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever on the next Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.